Hi there, I'm Hannah Brown, Head of Content at e-Residency. This conversation is with Dr. Priya E. Abraham, e-resident and founder of Cyberconnecting OÜ. Priya is a digital transformation strategist, IT professional, and privacy advisor. Her company, Cyberconnecting, aims to help business leaders succeed in the remote world of work. A few weeks ago, I had the opportunity to chat with Priya. We talked about how she found e-Residency and also how e-Residency has helped her run her business location independently. We also discussed what the digitally transformed remote workplace means for privacy and company culture, both for individuals and for the business as well. This is the first video in our series, Conversations with e-Residents. Please look out for many more in 2023. And in the meantime, watch and enjoy. Hi, Priya. Thank you so much for joining us today in this interview. Could you first talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial background and what led you to become a founder and an entrepreneur?
Thank you, Hannah, for the kind invitation. I understand it's the premiere episode, so I'm totally flattered. Thanks again for the invitation. Great to be here with you today. Regarding your question about my entrepreneurial background journey, the journey has started quite early, actually. When I started as early as starting university. Alongside my studies in social science, I taught IT courses and developed databases in order to finance my studies. So I had to become an entrepreneur in order to support myself. And it was a great way to do that. Firstly, IT jobs were very well paid then. And secondly, I looked into two different disciplines at the time, namely IT and social science. At the time, that was a bit exotic, I must say.
So you could say that you didn't find entrepreneurship found you.
I had to find it, actually, yes.
Okay.
Indeed, and in those days, it was a lot more complicated to set up a business, and there was a lot of bureaucracy. Bear in mind, it was a long time ago, so a lot of things have changed.
And what businesses are you working on at the moment? Where has this led you now?
There is a bit of a journey to that where I have come to. My entrepreneurial journey continued in the UK, where I worked and lived for more than 15 years. And as you probably well know, Hannah, around the UK's EU membership referendum in 2016 and the connected rise of xenophobia, I had to look for a new home for my then startup. So in those days, I worked as a business school professor and a client director for large-scale transformation projects, and alongside I had a startup. And with all the with the turbulences in the UK, I felt increasingly uncomfortable living there and running my business there, so I had to seek alternatives.
And this is where we come to e-Residency, I think. So maybe you can talk a little bit about your e-Residency journey and how it's helped you bring your business into Europe, back into Europe.
Indeed, yes. For me, it was clear that I wanted to leave the UK, so I started sourcing alternatives. And on Twitter, of all places, I saw an advertisement for e-Residency, and knowing a thing or two about cybersecurity, I thought, sounds interesting, but maybe I would like to investigate its legitimacy further. So I contacted a friend at Europol, reassuring me that the program was indeed legitimate and trustworthy. And I then decided to apply and become an e-resident.
And how was the process for you? How did you find the the application process and picking the card up and everything?
Totally smooth, very transparent. What I really appreciated, the process was clearly laid out. Everything worked seamlessly. Of course, everything was online, and my very first touch point, in-person touch point, was only when I collected the card.
So as an e-resident, you've set up a business in Estonia called Cyberconnecting, and why don't you tell us about that now?
Absolutely. At Cyberconnecting, we help business leaders succeed in the remote world of work, and we specifically focus on 3 pillars, namely business design, company culture, and privacy. Why do we focus on these 3? The most common challenges that remote and hybrid leaders faced in 2022 and will face in the future is culture, collaboration, engagement, and of course, motivation. And of course, in addition, in order to ensure business continuity, leaders need to look into privacy, namely data protection and cybersecurity. So this is the package that we offer. Often I observe confusion with or between processes and culture. As a root cause of low engagement and collaboration. And you may have heard it, Hannah, leaders tend to blame the workers if collaboration doesn't work, results are not there. But often it is the processes that are actually inadequate for remote work, or a toxic culture that has been literally transferred from the office space, the physical office, to the remote workspace where it has been amplified. So what we specifically do is we help leaders analyze the business design, for which we have semi-automated solutions such as the remote business maturity assessment and an analysis tool for determining a company's strategic positioning. And for culture, we developed VAELIOU. It's a Cyberconnecting brand where we help build an inclusive workplace culture where employees can thrive, the business can thrive, the employees can actually shape, own, and belong, which is important for building trust.
So maybe just to help people listening understand a little bit more, some examples would be a good idea of maybe some problematic privacy or cultural processes that might be occurring in businesses, and then some solutions or some good practice, cultural practice. For example, we were talking just before recording about meetings. So maybe we could talk a little bit about what are some bad practices with meetings and with online meetings. Maybe what are some better practices that people could start implementing?
Yeah, one example is back-to-back meetings, back-to-back online meetings, still too many per day per person, and that is often a result of poorly set up remote processes. So there is definitely room for improvement, and before you can start improving, we typically recommend to analyze the current processes. Which stage of remote business maturity is the organization at? So we look at 5 stages typically, and what exactly needs to be improved in order to make the work day less stressful and more productive. Because we all know back-to-back remote meetings are not productive, they exhaust you, and people simply don't like it. It's exhausting.
And I just want to turn back to how e-Residency has helped you, because I understand that you've started VAELIOU, the brand about culture, with at least one other e-resident and maybe 2 other e-residents. So I wanted to sort of understand, is this something that came up because of e-Residency, or did you already know these people, or how did that work?
Both, actually. The value brand and its underlying methodology is based on my PhD research. So the methodology is absolutely unique. It was developed in the 21st century for the 21st century work styles. And e-Residency actually brought open some unexpected doors, because there I met the current business partner, my current business partner, Oliver, who helped me automate the tool further. And when I say we have a unique methodology, what may be important to say is that most of the HR analytics which are being used to build company culture are based on methodologies from 1960. So some 60 years old. And of course, we do know that the world has changed, and specifically how we connect and how we work together these days. So using old methodologies is problematic when it comes to a modern workplace. And our methodology is based on new research, what we call behavioral identity management.
And what advice would you have in your field of expertise around cybersecurity, around privacy, and around culture in the cyber world, to other e-resident founders or any company leaders?
Start early as you can, specifically when you start building a SaaS. Consider building privacy into the product. Firstly, it's actually mandated, but not just because it is mandated. I recommend looking into the matter straight from the beginning, because it will make the product better, it will make it safer, and you will achieve, or you can build digital trust with your clients straight from the beginning. And privacy, both data protection and cybersecurity, is an integral part of company culture. So it's really a combination of things that make your company successful. It's business design, it is company culture, and privacy.
And we have seen in the past, I remember when I was writing the blog post, when I first met you a few years ago, and I was writing a blog post about you, we raised some of the bad things that had happened to some of the big companies. Like, I think there was an airline that had lost a lot of, released a lot of privacy information about customers because their systems were old. And there were a few other examples. So this is an important thing, because it can damage your reputation, and you can also get quite big fines if you get in trouble, I think.
Absolutely, Hannah. Absolutely, you are right. When the GDPR went into effect in 2018, we first heard about a lot of data leaks. Now we have actually progressed to some phenomenal fines, and we get to read headlines about Meta, about Google, I mean, literally routinely. So there has been quite some transformation there. Sometimes founders or small and medium business leaders think, oh, nothing can happen to me, or who would be interested in my data? But the fact is that everyone has something to hide, not in a negative sense, but in a sense that you need to protect yourself from having your data harvested, breached, and of course that your company, that your platform may actually be attacked.
Yeah, I'm going to turn to a topic that I know is close to your heart. It's also close to my heart, which is around entrepreneurship and women. So I'd like to ask you how you see the state of female entrepreneurship now in the world, and whether you think it's in a good place, or maybe there needs to be something done to achieve more equality of opportunities for women entrepreneurs.
Oh, you opened Pandora's box, Hannah. We have a separate podcast on that question. To summarize that, a lot needs to be done. And the core problem is, firstly, the perception about female leaders, and then leading into the difficulties they face in receiving funding. And you have done a lot of research in your recent article, which I really recommend reading. The gender pay gap is still phenomenal, and very clearly that is based on salaries. But looking at the gender pay gap, we can actually translate that straight to the way, or we can translate that to how women receive funding or not receive funding. It's usually a fraction, and it's a very small percent of women leaders who do receive funding.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was writing about in a recent blog post, which I can link in the description for this video. Essentially, it doesn't really matter what country you live in, whether it's developing or developed, you will find it difficult to find financing compared with your male entrepreneur friends. So in some countries, you may even find it difficult to get a bank account. And then the next level up is you might be able to get a bank account, but maybe you can't get financing without a male partner, for example. And then even in countries in the West and in like richer countries where you can definitely get bank loans and these kinds of things, there are difficulties around venture capital. There are much less funds available for women. We are seeing a sort of a slight increase, so that's a good thing, but it's still way behind. And also from as Priya said, if we're thinking about salaries and the gender pay gap, even in Europe, there are some countries, including Estonia, sadly, that are quite far behind for women. So this topic is one that I think we need to look at more. And I think it would be a really good practical way to try and level that playing field.
Indeed, what I recently saw, you may be interested in that, Hannah. One of the big startup conferences offer now a 70% discount for female leaders, which I think is just fair because, you know, a woman's dollar or a woman's euro is less worth than a man's dollar, plus the hurdles to receive funding is a lot higher. So I thought this is a development that goes into the right direction.
Yeah, and I think there are definitely more and more VC funds that are putting funds aside for women-led enterprises or minority-led enterprises as well. So it's good to see that it is changing, but we still need to fight, I think.
Absolutely. Well, research shows that organizations that have women on the board produce better results. They are more productive and they make better decisions. And looking at the stage of the world, I think we need a lot more of that. So getting a different angle on products, on services, and specifically what women favor in creating, that would definitely contribute to making the world a better place.
Yes, I absolutely agree. And I think it's not just companies, it's also societies. I think productivity has been sort of proven to go up if we have more people in the workforce, more people running businesses, becoming independent, being consumers in society. And so, yeah, I think this is a very important topic that we should continue to discuss. And yes, maybe we do need to do another whole webinar on this topic.
I guess so, yeah.
So before I come to the end with some rapid fire questions, I have one more question for you. What's next and what is 2023 going to bring for you and your business?
We are going to further automate some of our services. Very excited about that. we have started developing a starter package for VAELIOU, so teams can first test and experiment with what it delivers, what are the immediate benefits. So we are promoting that, the starter package, the VAELIOU starter package, and we will definitely use 2023 to further automate our services.
So if there are business leaders and companies listening and they're interested in finding out more about Cyberconnecting and VAELIOU as well, how would they find you and how can they reach out to you?
The easiest is to visit our websites. There are contact forms, and just to send a short message, we'll definitely respond, or to reach out on social media.
And again, I will put these links in the description, so you should be able to find them just below. Okay, so let's have our rapid fire question round now. I've got 5 rapid fire questions for you, Priya. So you can answer these however you like, but just in a few words, please. So the first one, as an e-resident, do you prefer using the e-Residency digital ID card or smart ID?
Smart.
Okay, second question, who's your entrepreneurial or professional hero? Can be living or dead.
Yeah, that's a difficult one because I prefer to name female founders and female leaders. I'd say Serena Williams. She's fabulously successful, and she really helps female founders now.
Yeah, so she's the best tennis player in the world ever, and now she's actually, you know, putting her money where her mouth is, and she set up her fund and set up some startups, and she's helping women and minority founders to get money and to grow. So that's great to see.
Indeed, yes.
Okay, the third question is, do you have a podcast, a blog, or a video recommendation?
Many. There is a podcast I really favor that is The Art of Digitalization, and maybe you can actually add the link to that. And the other one, specifically that we talk about e-Residency and what benefits it had for Estonia and what it did for all the e-residents, the growing community of e-residents, is the history of Estonia. And I'll send you the link because that's a really fabulous podcast, and I learned a lot about history, the history of Estonia, when listening to that podcast. Speaking about the history, for prospect e-residents, I recommend reading about the culture, the history and the culture of Estonia, because it's a real eye-opener. One book recommendation I have, and that is Pobieda 1946. It's a novel. Pobieda is a famous Russian car model, and the novel is built around the car, but it's again a real eye-opener about Estonia's history, and it is a page-turner, so just go for it.
Fantastic, thank you. I also will read the book and listen to the podcast because they're ones that are new to me. So. Fourth question in the rapid fire, what is your preferred location and work setup as a location independent entrepreneur?
Work from anywhere, bring your own office, hopefully ergonomically friendly, so the necessary gadgets to make the workstation suitable for your posture, and the necessary gadgets to make you productive. So anywhere, literally. I think changing locations is really important for inspiration. At the same time, it does need discipline. I would say discipline to really remain productive and get the balance right between inspiration and productivity.
I would agree 100% as someone who has dabbled in nomading and working. The crucial days are the ones where you're moving. You need to really, really be organized with those days. Okay, so the final fifth question in the rapid fire is, how would you describe your connection to Estonia, the country?
Growing. As I said earlier, I found the e-residency program on Twitter, and only later, when I had already become an e-resident, I actually traveled to Estonia to explore where, details about the place and what it is like. And now I have friends there, I'm well connected, I have a great network. So yeah, very, very fond of the place.
And would you recommend other e-residents visit Estonia for their business?
Absolutely. I also recommend to engage with the community. If you are still a prospect e-residency, I understand there are a couple of channels where people can actually find helpful advice. And once you are an e-resident, there are definitely some interesting opportunities to connect. There is a Slack channel. There is e-Erica, the Chamber of e-residents in Estonia. And this is where you meet all the great people, people with a wealth of expertise and years in experience. And this is where I actually met our current business partner. So I can really recommend looking into that.
Yeah, one thing we do really pride ourselves on is our community, and we do have some channels. There is a Facebook group for prospective e-residents who can ask other e-residents and service providers questions that they might have about anything to do with e-residency and having a company in Estonia. And as Priya mentioned, we also have some more channels for e-resident founders as well. And I will link the necessary ones, the public ones I'll link in the description as well, so that you have access to those. Well, Priya, thank you so much for joining me today. I think this has been a really interesting discussion, and I've learned actually a lot more about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis, because we've met a few times and we've talked about e-residency in Estonia and traveling, but it's nice to actually sit down and have a proper detailed discussion about your expertise, which I think you have a lot of. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to the premiere episode. It's always exciting because there is no model template. So hope to see you soon again. And thank you again for the invitation.